Hello.
Hello, Andre.
Hey, Shannon. How are you?
I'm all right. I had a lot of cheesecake today, lactose free, mind you. It's pretty tasty.
Okay, so I am lactose intolerant, and I don't know about you, but when I have something with lactose in it, I get the shits, and
Is there
it's
a
not
different
fun.
reaction you're supposed to have?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hear some people just have like tummy rumbling, and it's like weird and
Hmm.
like it sucks, but like I just like I get the full effect and in the worst way. It's scary. It's scary because also it was overnight. Like I remember when it happened a couple years ago back in college. Like I could drink milk and milkshakes all day and whatever, and then one day I just woke up and I couldn't have anything, and like I had cheese
Yeah.
or whatever, and just horrible. So
Yeah,
I don't know why I
same.
felt the need to share that, but just yeah,
Yeah,
don't give me anything, please.
no, seriously, it's such a real struggle. It's terrible and it happens at the worst moments and you never quite know what it was because sometimes they'll sneak milk into random things and
Yeah, like sometimes they'll eat something that I didn't realize it had milk or something or cheese in it, and I'm like, no.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
awful. It's trying to kill us. I think the government is trying to do it.
yeah. So on that note, we're talking about Ouija's today. Um,
Yeah, totally related.
no. How's your week? What's up with you?
I don't know. I'm just trying to find a job. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get that
True.
money.
Yeah, I get that. Trying to get that coin, very important.
How about
Um,
you?
please, everyone, keep Shannon in your thoughts. Just send her good
Yes.
vibes. She needs them right now. How about me? Everything's lit. Just kind of living life, trying to not get haunted by reading all this fucking shit. Man, like researching for this episode, like I was literally reading this story, which was like, because we're gonna talk about Ouija's, right? It was about this demon that I'm gonna talk about later, mind you. And it was like the person who wrote like the blog post that popularized this demon was like, I don't even like saying his name out loud because I feel like it might attract him. And so, like, doing research for this, I was like, note to self: do not say his name out loud.
Jeffree Star.
Yeah. So you guys will understand later. But there's that. So let's get started on this. We are
All
going to be
right.
talking about Ouija's today, or the concept of the Ouija board. Now, Shannon, I'm going to give you some background, but before, what are the basics on it? What do you know about it?
Ooh, I know that you can get it at a Barnes and Noble for $20.
Literally,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I actually thought about getting one, obviously for this episode, but I couldn't get anyone to play it with me. This is why I need you to move up here.
No, I'm good.
I know that it's a game with all the letters of the alphabet, and then yes or no, and then the numbers 0 through 9, and then the little pointer, which is called a planchette, where you need at
Mm-hmm.
least two people, and then hopefully the ghost will move the planchette to one of those symbols.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's what I know.
I mean, the only thing here is actually you can play it alone, which is highly, highly the opposite of recommended.
Why
Do
didn't I know
not do
this?
that. I mean, honestly, Andre's recommendation is just do not ever go near one of these boards ever. But I mean, Shannon is a whole other deal. But if you must, do not play alone. I guess the more human energy in the room with the board, the more protected you are, the less vulnerable. I don't know. But I
Hmm.
have heard that, and also seen it in movies. Just when you play alone, you're fucked. Now, yes, so it's a board. It has the alphabet on it. It has a planchette which moves. How it moves, we'll talk about that later. But the point is that it moves, and you can spell things out, and then that's how you receive messages from allegedly the spirit world.
Can
Again,
you get can you
yeah,
get like sexy messages from the spirit world,
I
like
wonder that
nice
myself.
ass?
I wondered myself, like, what's the range of messages that people have received? From what I saw, mostly just scary shit. I mean, some people reported some gross things. Some people reported some things that were very scary and gross because they were sexual, but like in a violent manner. So I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're talking to the ghost of like, I don't know, like a dead porn star, maybe you should be like, I want to suck your dick. Like maybe you should spell that out on the planchette. That'd be neat. Um, can you imagine that? Like, who is here? And she spells out like, I don't know, like fucking like kitty pole or something.
Oh my
Um,
god.
so yeah, those are the basics of the board. Again, you use it to spell out words. Some of the boards that you'll find have hello written on them occasionally. Most of them don't. They just have goodbye. And also the numbers. I
Ooh.
forgot to mention the numbers 0 to 9. I guess it depends on the manufacturer. And the spirits just adjust to that. I guess some spirits are like, I like the Hasbro boards better, so I'm not gonna hunt this guy because he bought it from Parker Brothers. So,
He
okay,
has taste.
yeah, the commercial introduction of the Ouija happened by a man by the name of Elijah Bond on July 1st, 1890. I was actually surprised that they had the exact date on it. Um, Come to find out, the reason they have this is because the reason they have such an exact date on the article that I was reading, they were able to get that is because the Ouija board is actually like legitimately patented, and it was patented in that year and then like put out on July 1st for sale. So that was kind of crazy. Like I thought I was gonna find a lot more like occult story. Nope, it's just fucking like it's a toy. Someone made it and now it's sold.
I mean,
Um,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, no, there is some historical like context for like even before the 19th century. Oh, that this already existed, but it just wasn't commercialized. But anyway,
Okay.
1890 is when like it really came out in a commercial manner. After that, not long after that, it popularized wildly across the U.S. It was actually apparently used as a divining tool during World War I, and then after that, it took up even more with sales like spiking around the 1960s and 70s. So the hippies love their demons apparently. Now, the Catholic Church and the Catholic Church, if you can guess, they hate the Ouija board. No, do not touch.
But
They
they're okay with touching other things in the
oh,
Catholic Church.
fuck, dude, that's savage. Actually, before I go into that, let me go into like the precursors of the Ouija. So as I was saying, like it was commercialized in 1890, but apparently one of the first mentions of the automatic writing method, we'll call it that, because like this wasn't necessarily like a Ouija board per se, but it was kind of like a weird ass like piece of wood that had some letters on it, and they didn't have a planchette, but I think they just used their fingers. But the point is like it was kind of the same thing. One of the
Yeah.
first mentions of this kind of I don't know, like spirit contact, I guess, is from China around 1100 AD. In historical documents of the Song Dynasty, and the method that they used with this board was known as Fuji, which translates to planchette writing. So never mind, it was a planchette. It's just that when I saw it, it looked like not a planchette. I thought it was just using their fingers. But yeah, this board looks a little weird, but it's basically the same concept. And you know that because apparently they used it as a means of necromancy. So very related. Like today we use them to talk with the dead. Apparently back then, early Ouija boards were used to raise the dead. So
Hmm.
lit. It was forbidden by the dynasty that came after the one where it was popularized, which I thought was really interesting. Um, yeah, like the next dynasty was just like actually that thing that you guys do forbidden. So that's the precursor, the earliest one I could find at the very least. Um, there were like following the American Civil War, some boards that were not called Ouija boards that were used by like people who did divination to contact lost relatives. It was like a little bit of a business, but again, it didn't popularize until after it was commercialized, like 30 years after the war. And
Mhm.
I'm guessing Elijah Bond, the businessman who popularized it, I'm guessing that was like where he took his inspiration, like
Yeah.
because like the boards right after the Civil War, because that was pretty much like close to the same time. Anyway, patented in 1890, commercialized that same year. Interestingly, though, it wasn't Elijah Bond, but an employee of his, William Fuld, who took over the production of the Ouija boards in 1901. I presume because Bond stepped down. But the point is that he actually ended up claiming that he had invented the board when that was not true. The employee. And nowadays, like the name Fold, FULD, is what's most closely associated with the invention of the Ouija board. So, history is just a bad game of telephone. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, but I mean, not that I would like to like be associated with. Like, I don't know if he feels like he lucked out. I would not want that association to my name, but um, Anyway, this guy, the employee, right, he claimed that he learned the name Ouija from using the board, and that the board told him the board's name. That it was apparently it was an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. However, he later claimed that it was actually a combination of the French and German words for yes. So we and ja.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he contradicted his own story. I don't know what the fuck. I think it's just some made up shit. Or I think if I was gonna believe one of those two theories, I believe the first one because it's creepier. Like imagine asking the board its name and it tells you its name. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's creepy. So that is the creation of the board. Now back to the church. The church does not like this. The church hates Ouija boards. They state that the Ouija board is far from harmless, and that it is a form of divination, which they do not like because it's basically seeking information from supernatural sources, and you should not mess with that. If you're Christian at all, but especially if you're Catholic, it's a no-no. So hi, Shannon. That's why I don't want to touch it. So, um, fun fact, like Catholic, apparently Ouija boards were banned in Micronesia for a while, because of the Catholic Church. They're not anymore, but that was a thing, so that's interesting. They did a prohibition on the Ouija boards as if they were alcohol. That was kind of crazy. The Dutch Reformed churches encouraged its people to avoid Ouija boards,
Hmm.
because it was related to the occult. Then in Wisconsin, like there was a church, a Lutheran church, that forbid its patronage from using Ouija boards because they thought it was a violation of the Ten Commandments. So like churches around the world over time have basically repeated the same message in different wording. They do not like Ouija boards. In 2001, Ouija boards were burned in New Mexico by a fundamentalist group alongside Harry Potter books because they were both symbols of witchcraft.
Oh my
I love that.
god.
This is a good. This is. I'm gonna just lift this straight from the article. This is good. Religious criticism has also expressed beliefs that the Ouija board reveals information which should only be in God's hands, and thus it is a tool of Satan. So there's that.
Satan
Um,
likes to play games.
yeah. Now, the church does not stand. We get it. But what about the scientific community? Well, as you can guess, I think it's all bullshit. They think that when people are playing the Ouija board and they're moving the planchette is actually being guided by something that you might have heard of or found during your research, which is the I actually forgot the name, the ideomotor effect. That's what it is. They think that when you're moving the planchette, it's actually a kind of like psychophysiological effect that makes you, long story short, like believe that there's something actually there, and your body manifests that by moving the planchette itself to convince your brain of your already existing bias that there indeed is something trying to communicate with you. Did you get all
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That makes me think of how when you're driving on a road and there's a cyclist next to you, you like instinctually want to drive into them like your hands do. No, like I'm not being crazy. Like
That's
you're
so.
it's
That's I haven't heard of
you
that
have
one.
to actively move across like out of the way because like the natural like wherever your eye goes, your hand will follow. So you're staring at the cyclist and you get closer. It's a
Well,
thing.
but that's not. I don't think that's it because like if I'm looking at a stop sign, like am I really getting close to the stop sign to hit it subconsciously? Like
Well, that's a little different. The stop sign isn't moving.
I guess. Interesting. So
Plus
we have like
flesh.
a subconscious like desire for murder. I am.
No, it's just the way you want to avoid it but you can't. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
I
Maybe
get
it is murder.
So apparently, like these unconscious muscle movements responsible for moving the planchette, they are an effect of a dissociative state. I suppose that like it's kind of like what I explained, like because you think that something is happening, your brain like makes those movements happen with your hands, but you have like dissociated that part of your brain from the one that is currently thinking. And so the one that is currently thinking does not realize that that other part of your brain that controls motor movement is doing that. So that's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. To me, I mean, Occam's razor, right? Like this sounds like way too fucking complex. Maybe it's just fucking ghosts, dude. Like,
Or it's that one person at the party, i.e., me, who is pushing it towards something because
because you
they
want to
want to
fuck
freak
with your
people
friends.
out.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. So yeah, scientists think that it's pseudoscience. They think that it's all the ideomotor effect. I get that. However, I mean, this is the same thing I always say. I read a bunch of shit and rule of 1,000, right? And if even one of those 1,000 is real, then like this thing must exist, and it cannot be the Adiomora effect. If I read one that's, for example, like I was 1,000,000% sure it was not me moving it, and like neither was my friend, like, and let's say they're telling the truth, then like how the fuck do you explain that, right? I think that the scientific community has a very convenient cop out with the dissociative state statement, because it implies that even if you think you're 100% sure you're not moving it, you wouldn't really know because you're so spooked that your brain would make you do it anyway, because your brain is kind of like, I don't know, likes fucking with you, and so it wants to convince you of whatever you're spooked at. It wants to convince you that there actually is someone there in the room. So even if you think you can claim you are not moving it, it could be that your brain is controlling your hands without you noticing it. So I think that's bullshit. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, crazier things have happened. Like, people can be taken over by other personalities, you know? Like,
I suppose, yeah.
maybe it's not like every single person is having this dissociative issue, but I don't know. I'm more prone to think that it is just like someone's, because like trying to hold your hands perfectly still, like I can't even do that. My fingers shake. You know, like you're trying so hard that they twitch. And I'm not saying that that's how it is for everyone, but it could be. And I am just going to advocate for the one idiot who wants to fuck with people because it's easy. It's
I
they make
mean,
it easy.
sometimes body parts, like sometimes extremities, I suppose, do want to move just because of inertia. I guess that could be something. Like, have you ever played that game where, like the levitation game or whatever, where someone like holds your arms down and then lets them go, and like they slightly raise to
Mm-hmm.
the sides?
Yeah.
Um, I guess it could be something like that. I don't know. I think you can already draw what my stance is, and it's not
Yeah.
bad. And this is why. Get ready to be fucking spooked, Shannon. I'm gonna spook your ass. Listen.
Okay.
Um. Okay. So a lot of people think that when you use a Ouija board, for some reason, Ouija boards specifically are imbued with the presence of one sole specific demon. And that
Hmm.
demon's name is spelled Zozo. I will not say it out loud because I am extra as fuck, and
Sounds like a
because
little bear or something.
um uh, and because someone, which I'll explain in a minute who this someone is,
Zozo.
said that it's, fuck you, Shannon, said that it's bad to say it out loud. But honestly, I mean, he'll get you, not me, so whatever.
Yeah.
um you're like come for me, sweet dad. um so we're gonna call him Susie,
Zozo?
actually.
What are you gonna call
So
him?
Susie. So
Susie?
yeah,
Yeah,
but with
that's a
the
little
Z.
condescending, don't you think?
You think it's gonna come from me just because of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Zeus is a is a Ouija board demon. According to this article written by Chrissy Stockton, the demon can possess people who use a Ouija board by slowly gaining their trust. And again, a lot of people think that whoever you have ever contacted using a Ouija board, like if they said it was your grandma, it wasn't. It was actually so like pretending to be
Hmm.
your grandma to try to get into your body. Like this article and many other things that I've read and actually I'd heard about this before we did this episode, like years ago. Claim that like legit anyone who uses a Ouija is just talking to that. Like you can't contact anything else but this demon with a Ouija board. I don't know about that. Like that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt he can be in different places at the same time. I mean, he's a demon. I don't know how that works, but I just find it like too much that like that's the only thing anyone who has ever used the Ouija board has ever talked to. Like, wow, okay. Um,
I
Anyway,
wonder how
yeah.
the factory handles this. Like they're making like 1,000 Ouija boards and they just like spill out some Zozo juice like on each one, or is it like demon bait or like demon catnip?
I don't know. I don't know. See, like that does throw a wrench into the whole like Seuss thing because, yeah, like these are commercial products. Like, do they get imbued with the Seussness because the factory or because they're a Ouija board? Like that's it, or is it because they're being used and like
Hmm.
actually putting like human energy on this otherwise meaningless piece
Hmm.
of cardboard is what actually like
Yeah.
draws the demon? I think it's probably the third one.
Like
um
the intent
yeah,
is
I think
there.
intent is very, very powerful because I mean, and I think this is confirmed, well, confirmed, quote unquote, by, remember the I am Charlie or as Charlie, whatever, like trend that was going on a couple of years ago. People basically made like makeshift Ouija boards with a piece of paper and a pencil in the middle. And like the piece of paper was divided into like quadrants, and it said yes, no, maybe, and something else, or maybe it was just yes, no, I don't remember. But like the pencil would move after you asked Charlie, that was the name of the demon, after you asked Charlie questions. And
Ooh.
like obviously pencil and paper are inherently demonic, but if you believe that those Charlie like things, those videos and social media, like that trend was real and the Charlie demon was real and was actually manifesting itself, then it would have to be because of the intent of those people, right? um
Wow, I have to try this because it's cost effective and I can do it literally right now. Where's my pen?
it has to be a pencil, it has to be a pencil.
What?
At least that's
Come
what I saw.
on.
I don't know.
All right.
So okay, a lot of people, going back to Sue's, a lot of people apparently don't actually realize they're being possessed by this demon, because again it lies and it pretends to be kind of like a sympathetic spirit, instead of a malevolent asshole. And so a lot of people don't know that it's him until it's too late. Honestly, like I don't think that this demon is so popular and just like the zeitgeist on in mainstream media that people would know anyway. Like because it says like people don't know until it's too late, and I'm like, okay, like do you think everyone who's used a Ouija board like knows who this demon is? Like probably not. And so like even if he did say his name, people probably would keep playing because they're stupid. I
Yeah.
don't know. Anyway, so apparently like this demon exists in some historical documents before 2009, but it was in 2009 that it was popularized by a viral post on a message board, a paranormal message board. Darren Wayne Evans brought this demon to popular knowledge when he posted a long and horrifying story of his encounter with him on a message board. And this is a quote from that post. During my experiences with Ouija boards, one particular spirit always seemed compelled to make its presence known. Its name is the name. He says, today I refuse to even pronounce its name as I believe the mere pronunciation of it can cause it to manifest itself. Too many times to count, it has at first pretended to be a nice spirit or pretend to be whomever I was trying to contact. But eventually it showed its true self, cussing me, threatening me, and others present in the room. He says that at
Oh.
one point he was actually cussed in like Hebrew, which is like, okay, how do you know that? Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. But like maybe he does speak it. I don't know, in Latin as well, apparently. Um, okay, so oh, this was good. So the guy, the guy also says that apparently, um, the demon would constantly like comment on his girlfriend and how the demon was gonna take his girlfriend to paradise. And then like when he
Ooh.
asked, where paradise was, the demon spelled hell, which I think is like that's like it sounds like a movie, honestly. Um, apparently, like one time, the demon was being extremely evil. And so the guy left and walked into his bathroom only to see his 1 year old daughter about to drown. Her mother had left her
No.
alone in the tub just for a second, and somehow the water got turned on and was overflowing.
Okay, she's
Um,
1. You don't leave a 1-year old in the bath alone. Of
yeah,
course she's gonna
also,
play with
like,
the
that's kind of
faucets.
stupid, but anyway. Yeah, like, apparently, like, they grabbed her from the water, like, seconds before she, like, died, and that sounds like such, like, a movie scene, but anyway, that's the story of this guy. He says that, he believes, like, the demon, might actually, like, the demon's current name might actually be, um, like I forget the word, but like a different name for his original name, which like if
Hmm.
he said it out loud, you would actually be able to control it or something. I don't know. It's complicated.
Mm.
And then the article, that's the end of his quotes, whatever. The article then actually expands on that last statement and mentions that indeed, like this demon might actually be another name for the demon. I don't know if I should say this demon's name. I won't. The demon named Pazuzu. Yeah, so apparently this demon, it's an almost 3,000-year-old demon who has the body of a man and a scorpion's tail. The one whose name starts with a P. So, and according to this book from the 19th century, early 19th century, called the Dictionary Infernal, contains an account of a young girl who was terrorized by demons, and one of these demons names was Zo demon.
Hmm.
So the point that I'm trying to make is that like this demon exists before the post, and like there's records of this and of this name, one in the early 19th century and another one, if you believe they're related, in ancient Mesopotamia. So
I was kind of like disassociating a little bit. I think the demon might have been taking hold of me, so I'm
oh
sorry if
my
you already
god.
mentioned this, but is this like in the earlier mentionings, were they like biblical mentionings or just in Mesopotamia, not
No,
related to any religion?
no, not biblical, but I think just as legitimate because apparently the P name demon was like a legitimate figure
Hmm.
in ancient Mesopotamia. Not just like some bullshit that a historian like try to extrapolate for something that wasn't there. But apparently, there's a lot of records of the P name one. The with the name with a Z, not so much
Hmm.
record. But if you believe they're related, then the name that has the P actually has extensive record. And so, yeah,
Well, you said that saying that name gives you power over him, and I already said it, so do I have power over him now?
maybe like the first static was because you said his new name, but then you said the old ancient name, and then the second static was like him leaving.
He jumped off my ass. He's
Yeah.
gone. I
Uh,
do feel lighter.
maybe it's because he took your soul. Oh wait, you don't have a soul. I forgot.
I already sold that.
Um, so okay, so this is very interesting. Apparently, it's believed that Roland Doe was a victim of the Z demon. You know who Roland Doe is?
No, he sounds like a nice man.
Rolando is the pseudonym that was used for the 14-year-old boy who underwent an exceptionally violent exorcism in 1951
Oh,
and became the inspiration for guess what? The Exorcist.
wow.
Yeah, they just changed him to a girl, but I remember reading this a while ago that like apparently was a boy and they actually hid his identity for obvious reasons. But he inspired the book and then the movie. Um, so yeah, apparently like people think that Roland Doe was actually possessed by the Z demon, because Roland's aunt was a regular user of a Ouija board, and like she had him use it with her, which like what the fuck. um
Yeah, it's kind of
but
weird.
but unlike the movie, after the exorcism, this boy actually grew up and never had experiences of that kind again, at least not on record. So exorcism gone right? Question mark. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Lastly,
we
go
we
ahead. Go
tried
ahead.
to talk about exorcisms in our first episode, and it just kind of fell through. Maybe we should try to do that again sometime.
Maybe, but if you're gonna be saying like just throwing the C name like every like I can do that because I'm
I
not trying to get possessed.
I have withhold it for the past 8 minutes, Andre, and also I'm saying it, not you.
So in 1977, this demon is actually believed to have been behind the Enfield poltergeist, which I talked about a couple episodes ago.
Oh wow.
Because, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I suppose it's a relevant fact now. The two young sisters of the Enfield case apparently liked playing with a Ouija board at a friend's home. And they say that during that initial encounter, something bad happened and that they had seen the face of a demon. But I guess no one ever paid attention to that.
Well, I
Yeah,
think also that's kind of incriminating towards saying that they planned it all because they were already interested in the occult. So maybe that's why people leave it out.
I suppose. Okay, now I want to give you some advice because you probably are gonna play with a Ouija board. I mean, I cannot stop you.
I don't have
Um,
money for one. Like that's the truth.
you'll just find one in like your trash because like that's how movies work. Like you'll be like, oh, like you said that like sea demon name, and now you're gonna find one in your trash, and you're gonna be like, what's this? And you're gonna play with it.
You know, that would
Um,
be really tight, and I would actually probably believe it's demons because we're not signed up for waste management. So,
yeah. Okay, so again, if you boys and girls, do not try this at home, but if you must, it's kind of like sex ed. Like you'd wish like 13-year-olds weren't having sex, but like you also can't stop them, so the least you can do is educate them. So to everyone who wants to fuck figuratively with
what?
demons, um
That
here
long
is
pause.
here is your advice. Once the door is open, that you open with a Ouija board, mind you, any spirit, good or evil, can walk through and contact you. So be prepared for that. Unless you believe the only thing that ever contacts people is the sea demon, in which case it'll only be him. Now, since you are talking to Mr. Z, one, the mood or temperature of the room may suddenly shift. Two, even if Mr. Z doesn't directly reveal himself, he may continue to point the letter Z or even call himself
Hmm.
um, ZAZA.
Huh.
Interesting. Or once Mr. C reveals themselves, he will often spell his name over and over up to hundreds of times in a row. The Z and the O are located on opposite ends of the Ouija board's lower line. In order to spell its name, Mr. C will often move the planchette in the shape of an infinity signal between the Z and the O. That's fucking creepy.
That's a lot of
Um,
work.
yeah. Number five, glass, especially mirrors, may break because Hollywood. And number six, scratches may appear on the body of anyone in the residence even if they're not participating in playing with the Ouija board. So do not like condemn your friends to a fate they do not want just because you wanted to play. Tell them to leave the room, play alone, and die. I don't know.
It's all about consent. If they agree to it, it's their fault too.
Finally, if you think you have made connection with Mr. C, unless you want to keep talking, immediately close out your Ouija board session by moving the planchette to goodbye. To be safe, no one involved should use a Ouija board again in the near future. If it's possible, it is also best to vacate the space for a few days to remove all Mr. C energy. Um,
Cleanse some sage up in there.
yeah, so fucking creepy. That's what I have. Please, everyone, stay away from Mr. Z. Fun fact, by the way, that I just learned randomly researching this shit. Apparently, the original name for Curious George of the Curious George books was actually that name. Was actually like the Z name. um,
Well, obviously it means something.
yeah.
Actually, I looked it up just now, and apparently, colloquially, ZOZO in like British areas is a term for twit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. Cool.
Um. Yeah. So, do we know? Do you think it is just this demon, or do you think that you can actually communicate with the dead?
I think it's more than this demon. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it was this demon, though. If there was some like special connection between like the
Hmm.
manufacturing of these boards and like this specific demon attaching specifically to this pastime.
I guess because I don't really have like a firm understanding of what exactly demons entail.
You will now.
I well, all I really know is that he cusses at you and he tries to steal your girl, and I don't have a girl and I don't mind some cussing, so I don't should I be afraid?
I guess not. Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that you took the time to describe it though, because that gives us stuff to think about, because I am actually going to come at you with mostly, well, basically, yeah, just stories.
Okay.
And these are I think that they're all ones that happen in real life. I don't really remember. So I'll start if you're ready.
Okay.
So actually, in episode 3, I think it was 3, we talked about psychic phenomenon. Um, and I was talking about this book in that episode called Probability of the Impossible by Dr. Thelma Moss. And I think I just remembered in the back of my head, I was like, I think that they talk about Ouija boards in this book because it is kind of connected to, well, what is it? Clairvoyance? Where you
Mm-hmm.
can, yeah. And maybe it could be also connected to like psychically, we know something we're not supposed to know. And so maybe it's not the Ouija board, but the act of searching deeper into that. But that's neither here nor there. Point is, this is where I got this story from. I actually went back and read. So Dr. Moss, she is actually saying this as a personal experience. She says that she's like messed around with them in the past just to see like if there was anything to them. But there is one story where her friend actually told her this. So he calls Dr. Moss and he says that his wife had been getting messages on a Ouija board about a relative who had dined with them that Thanksgiving. And this relative, he left that night to drive himself back to San Francisco. Um, and so, still at the party, his wife decided, like, a fun thing to do for the remaining guests would be to play with the Ouija board. That always surprises me. I'm like, why does that sound fun for Thanksgiving? Like,
Yeah, no.
I don't get it. But, to each their own. Actually, maybe I would do that. I'm not going to judge her. So, she was playing with her friends, and basically the planchette kept spelling HELP, 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 over and over again.
Oh.
Yeah, and they kept getting more information from the board that was slowly beginning to indicate that their relative had been in a car accident and was wandering around in the dark near like the roads looking for help.
Dang.
And the next day, they received news that their relative had died in an automobile accident on his way back home. So there's that. And yeah, so when he had called Thelma Moss, he was basically like, "Can you come and basically do this board with my wife because she's on it all the time. She's convinced that this is like real. And like, I just want to know what you think or if you can help or whatever." And so she was like still receiving strange messages that weren't exactly specific of anything. Like that first one was very specific, but she was pretty much down to clown with the Ouija board. And
Mm-hmm.
so Dr. Moss comes and she does play it with them. And her conclusion from the whole thing is that the first event, the one on Thanksgiving, might have been real. It might have been maybe like, I don't know, the collective unconsciousness, she was feeling her relative's pain at that time and knew it was happening, or it was literally just a call from spirits over the Ouija board. She doesn't know. But the rest of them, the ones that she kept messing around with, were probably just psychological after effects of being right about the first one. And so that's what she concluded. There wasn't enough evidence to point to otherwise on either instance. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, do you have thoughts on that?
Um, uh, I can see that. Like, that makes sense to me. Like, that the first one was real, but the other ones were just kind of like she got freaked out, either consciously or
Yeah.
subconsciously, and so those manifested themselves as like consequences of the first one.
Yeah, because like you're saying, like maybe it's like 1 in a million, and that was her 1 in a million, and the
It
rest it's
still
just
makes it
not.
real, though. Still makes it real.
Right. If this is real, we don't know. So you actually brought it up earlier, automatic writing.
Hmm.
So that can be done in different ways other than just the Ouija board. You can just kind of take a pen to a paper and like try to write something from the spirit world. I don't think this could happen really, but this case kind of changed my mind a little bit.
It's kind of like what mediums do, right? Like, well, at least in
Yeah.
movies, like they close their eyes and like they go white, and then they like, I'm writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that happened like the others or something.
Uh huh.
Yeah, so I mean, it can happen different ways, but in this particular case, this is actually from the same book. Um, it's really interesting and it is kind of convincing. I don't know. We don't know. So this is in 1912. So there's a Mrs. Pearl Curran. She's just a housewife who lives in St. Louis. This is kind of important for later. She only has an 8th grade education. So she was invited over to play a Ouija game with a group of friends, and the board became pretty active. The friends played for about 2 years off and on. Um, Sometimes they received a message that could be verified, but nothing really dark or anything. Mostly it was just nonsense and they were just playing for fun.
Hmm.
And then this is when it gets weird. One day, when they were playing this game, they received a statement. Many moons ago I lived. Again I come. Patience worth my name. And this Patience Worth, I guess you can call her a ghost. She stayed for 5 years with Mrs. Curran and the friends at the Ouija board, and then kind of manifested through Mrs. Curran through automatic writing. And this ghost dictated through Mrs. Curran's hands more than 1.5 million words in 16th century English, prose, poetry, novels, stories. Critics have hailed this as having high literary merit, not something that a person with an 8th grade education would be capable of. She wrote one poem called Telka that was about 70,000 words. That's like the size of a novel. And it was written in a dialect used 3 centuries ago, containing a high percentage of Anglo Saxon words. An analysis of this language by a professor at the London University demonstrated that the vocabulary contained no word used later than the year 1600. Um, this is kind of important because basically the professor, his name's Schiller, he says that if we consider the authorized version of the Bible only has 70% Anglo-Saxon, and Patience Worth had like 100%, and it just didn't seem very likely for that to be possible. So basically, the Bible had 70% Anglo-Saxon, and the poem had 100%. So he basically said that it's like a philological miracle, like it's not possible, basically.
Mm-hmm.
A parapsychologist, Dr. Walter F. Prince, he did a study of Miss Curran, and he published his observations in a book called The Case of Patience Worth.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically came to the conclusion that if it wasn't some kind of ghost or something, then the subconscious of Miss Curran needs to be investigated because, I mean, how
Yeah,
in
how
the
the fuck did she
world?
do that?
How in the world? So, what do you think
Dang.
of that?
Um, uh, that's pretty fantastical. I don't know, like I think it's legit. Like I think there was something there. There was an entity. Um, I don't think it's just her subconscious. I don't
Yeah.
see how it could be. I mean, I understand the need for having that be an avenue to be explored, but you kind of already know my stance. And when you tell me something that's so like extraordinary, like yeah, like that's where my mind immediately goes to. Like there was some external intervention by some entity.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It made me think of the Devil's Bible that you were talking
yeah,
about before.
yeah,
Yeah, where he wrote that overnight, and it's like, how? How is that possible?
exactly.
And it really fascinated me that, and like there is research on this ghost or whatever, mostly on Mrs. Curran, and it's like, damn, like either she was just like a really good writer and was pretending to be dumber than she actually was,
Hmm. But why?
or
Why would you do
something.
that?
Yeah, why would you do that? I don't know. I guess people do tons of crazy things.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so hopefully I can get more spooky for
Okay,
you so
okay,
I
yes.
can.
Spook me, please.
I want to make sure that you don't sleep tonight. That's my goal. So this one is from a Reddit post. This is the one that's a little less verified, but I actually like this one. So
Okay.
hopefully you haven't read it.
I haven't read it on Reddit.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna read it just verbatim. So,
Okay.
quote, when I was little, my mom took out a Ouija board and asked my brother and I if we'd like to play with it. Already, why are people doing
Yeah.
this with their
Bad
kids?
parenting.
Anyway. It started out pretty funny. Someone was obviously moving the glass thing, making words like poop and stuff like that.
Can you imagine like the Z demon being like poop?
I would love it. I would love it so much. I'd be like, come with me and let's raise chaos. All right. So, but then my mom said, let's get serious and try to contact someone. And here is where it gets weird. A friend of hers had recently gone missing. He'd been missing for a month or so, and nobody knew where he was. When we asked who it was we're talking to, his name was spelled out. Let's just say it was George, since genuinely, I don't remember. When we asked George if he was my mom's friend, he said yes. My mom got visibly upset and asked where he was. In a lake was spelled out.
The
It was
fuck?
extremely upsetting, and we stopped immediately. Mom tried to be lighthearted about it, and since I was young, I believed it was no big deal as well, following her lead. About 2 weeks later, they found George's body. He'd been hit by some car or train or something on some bridge, and his body fell into the nearby lake that was more like a very large pond. It was a reasonably remote place, so nobody had found it for a while. And that's from Reddit user The Tree Man.
Dude, that's fucking terrifying. I mean,
It's
obviously it wasn't a malevolent spirit. It doesn't sound like it, but just the fact that like that could have happened and like an actual like ghost could have talked to you. Like I understand that like they're not evil. A lot of them are not evil apparently, but like I just can't. Like I don't want to talk to anything that's not a human. Like no,
wow. Okay, that's a little offensive.
just like I don't know. It's just like it feels so like eerie and
What if they don't want
wrong.
to talk to you,
Fine, I'm
Andre?
totally fine with that. Fuck off, ghosts. Like it's because like you know like I've read so many things and watched so many movies and whatever. Like I understand that if some ghosts indeed are benevolent, that they pose no danger, but it just feels so fucking like it should not be allowed because it's just so like out of the
Mm.
ordinary and weird that like you can legitimately like talk to someone who's dead. Like if you're dead, like no, you cannot talk. You had your turn. Enough.
I feel you have some internalized speciesism going on
Maybe,
that you
yeah,
should
some
think about later.
internalized like phantasmophobia. I just
Yes.
like I don't know. It feels so like not how the natural order should be. Like if you're
Yeah.
dead, you should not be able to talk.
But you're kind of against the natural order because you don't want to die at all. You want to be immortal.
I mean,
Is
no,
that
no,
just
no,
to
no,
avoid
no,
becoming a
no, 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 no,
ghost?
no, no. I mean, if anything, no, that's different. Because like as I was saying last episode or 2 episodes ago, I don't think death is like well like death is natural, but that doesn't something being natural doesn't mean it's part of the natural order, right? Like the Zika virus is natural. Like is it part of the natural order? No. Like super resistant like bacteria are natural. Like they're not man-made. Are they part of the
Hmm.
natural order? No, because hopefully the order um does not want to like wipe out half of the human population, or at least hopefully that's not how we're interpreting what we think the order is, because that'd be terrible. I think that death, maybe we consider it part of that order right now, but we won't in the future when we find a cure for it. And I call it a cure, not like an extension of life, because I think that death is a disease. I mean, it actually is, because death isn't a thing. Like people don't die of old age or die of death. People die of sicknesses associated with old age. So even someone who you think died of quote unquote old age and not an accident or not cancer in their 60s or whatever, they didn't actually do that. Like they just died of that same thing but older. So you know what I'm saying? And like, and if we don't think
Yeah.
diseases are part of the natural order and we seek to eradicate diseases, why are diseases all of a sudden acceptable when they happen to you when you're 80? Like,
Um. Well, first, I want to say anti-vaxxers can leave the chat right now. But yeah, I do think that death is a problem in our code, but that doesn't mean I don't crave it like a sweet
I
release. You know what I
mean,
mean?
yeah, like I suppose like you crave the release of like life itself. One, because you're a jokester, and two, because I understand like the existential like burden of. I mean, hello, I'm living life as well, but like, yes, I totally, yeah, I get that. I don't.
I just feel like nothing should last forever. We're not Barbie dolls.
I mean, but like even Barbie dolls don't last forever. um,
They could put them in ice.
I just think that like I just think that I know that people die because of disease, and we always seek to eradicate disease. It seems to me out of place that we are okay with disease because it happens at an age where usually most humans aren't able to combat it to the point that they defeat the disease. And you know what I mean? Like the pattern is that if you get sick of something when you're 80, you likely will not be able to beat it and you will die. And because that's around the average of when people's immune systems go to shit, we're like, well, if you get this disease, but at 80, then it's normal and it's okay. Um, because most people on average, that's when they get it and they can't beat it. So if you also can't beat it, it's normal. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think that we have extended our lifespan so much through technology. I think then like next step further is to take it from extension to permanence, I suppose, if possible. I don't see why we wouldn't do that. We certainly crave it.
Well, I think like at the end of the day, it might not happen as soon as we think it will because other countries are going to nuke each other, and then the end of the world will happen before we reach that.
I mean, yeah.
But it's a nice thought, I guess, for those who want that.
Yeah, like I mean, and I know people can make the argument of like, oh, well, it's just a fear of death, and like, yeah, one, it is a fear of death, but like, who isn't afraid? I mean, besides Shannon, like, who isn't afraid of death? Like, I think that's very human. You're not gonna like death shame me, like, fuck off. Like, but number two, like, it's not even that, like, really, like, it's just I think that it should happen because not just because like personally I don't want to die, like sure, okay, whatever, but really it's because I think it's just like the most logical progression over human beings should go as far as what the
Hmm.
next big breakthrough should be. Like it just makes sense to me, and I want to see it happen because I want to see humans like break through that, like prove to ourselves that we can defeat even the great defeater, because that to me it's like it instills a sense of pride in the human race, and that's really cool. Um it's you know, it's more philosophical to me. So also, this episode's about Ouija's. Like, what the fuck? um,
Yeah,
yeah.
this would be a good time for you to mention that theory you had about ghosts.
Oh my god. Okay. So I'm actually gonna have to pull this up from my text. So earlier, hi everyone. I texted Shannon this thing that I saw online. There was a theory about ghosts. It was okay. So what if we live in a simulation and quote unquote ghosts are actually just modders using invisible hacks? Um, I love that. I think that number one, because hi, we're deviating again. Number one, because I'm not gonna say I believe we live in a simulation, but I cannot shake the feeling that we might, just because Neil deGrasse Tyson once said that he found it really difficult to argue against the idea, and Elon Musk once, more than once, has said that he believes the chances that we do not live in a simulation are actually 1 in 1 billion. And he, yeah,
What?
he has a lot of like metaphysical and also allegedly mathematical reasoning behind this, but that's too complex. That is the statement that he's made. You can Google this.
Hmm.
So I don't believe it. Maybe if I actually took the time to see the math, like I would. But one, I don't want to freak myself out. Two, like I
Aren't you on 3?
whatever. I don't want to freak myself out. Number one, number two, I feel like even if I saw the proof or whatever his math, like I still just would not be able to like really digest that. I'd be like, nah, it's bullshit. And three, let's say I believe it completely. Like, what's the fucking point? Like, I've talked to this about a lot of to a lot of people about this. Like the simulation. Oh, we live in a simulation. We're basically like the Sims, fucking like dancing on the rooftop. Like, and I'm like, but
Uh,
what's the fucking matter? Like, what's it changed? Like, the Sims can't
Nothing.
escape their world. Most of them like are not aware that they're a simulation, and even if they are, again, they cannot escape. So. What does this knowledge change for you? And if anything, wouldn't this be one of those instances where ignorance is bliss? Because if anything, now you're just gonna torment yourself over the fact that you can't escape your matrix. So it's like I'd rather just not know.
I want to do the number system again that Andre does. So 1, I am
Fuck
I
off.
am very much afraid of dying. I am. However, 2, I am much more afraid of living forever because that sounds terrible. And I think we already talked about this.
Yeah.
But Andre, I have 2 more stories to spook you with.
Okay. Spook me. Spook me.
Okay, so these are true crime hashtag. So this is a story that ends in murder. Murder.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Murder,
So
she wrote.
murder. So this man, Gary Gilmore, he is a bad man, and he had a mother named Bessie. He also had a brother. His brother's named Mikkel.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about Bessie for a minute because Bessie is the actual crux of this, in my opinion. Bessie was convinced that she had contacted a demonic spirit through a Ouija board when she was a child.
Hmm.
Furthermore, she believes that the demon has subsequently attached itself to her family. And to add fuel to the fire, why did she believe this? One of her sisters was killed after playing with the Ouija board, and another was left paralyzed after an accident.
Hmm.
And if you're looking for bad things to attach to a Ouija board, I'm sure you can find lots of things, but those are pretty rough. I mean, you can't blame her, and she was already kind of crazy to begin with. So,
Yeah.
sorry, Bessie. So, in terms of being a mother to her two sons, she did not allow the children to touch or hug her. So, there was some emotional deprivation there. Her husband
Yeah.
Frank, he drank heavily. It sent him into terrible rages. He would whip his kids. And basically, Frank's mother, Faye, she was a medium, and Bessie learned of this. And she decided, hey, let's do a seance at Faye's home. Well, I think she was told there was going to be one, but she was down. She was down for it. Um, actually, I don't know why I said that. She was not down for it. She had heard about it, but she stayed away. She was kind of already scared of the supernatural because of, her incident with the Ouija board and believing her family was attached by a demon. When she returned to Faye's house, she saw that the woman was exhausted and terrified. She got the woman into bed and then she went to sleep herself. But a short time later, she was awoken by the feeling that, quote, something was touching her face.
Ew.
When she opened her eyes, she saw a terrifying, inhuman creature lying in bed beside her.
Ew.
She screamed, jumped out of bed, only to see Faye walking into the room, and Faye shouts at her, "It knows who you are."
I hate that.
So they got out of the house. She took her kids and she, basically, she ran into the bedroom where her kids were and she saw the creature in there. It was looking directly into the eyes of her young son, Gary.
Ew.
Faye died shortly thereafter, and Gary had terrible nightmares that he was being beheaded. He was certain that something was trying to get him, and the nightmares haunted him for the rest of his life.
That sucks.
So she did get the kids out, but she believed that the demon that she had summoned as a child through the Ouija board had possessed Gary, making him an angry and violent man. More likely, however, the fact that she wouldn't let him hug her and Frank beating the shit out of him probably made him a bad man.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would think that though.
Yeah, that's crazy, Shannon.
Uh, yeah, it's absolutely insane. So, the issue with this is that Gary had known of his mom's craziness, her obsession with the Ouija and the demons and stuff like that. So, he was inclined to kind of believe it. And Bessie had told him that when she was young, her father had taken her to witness a hanging. And so the boys believed that to be true, although later on it was kind of proven that that definitely never happened.
Mm.
And so that kind of proves that she's not to be counted on, but it doesn't excuse the fact that this made Gary even more messed up, than he
Mm-hmm.
already was.
Yeah.
And so the way this ends, this is in 1976, he shot two men to death, and when he was arrested, he made the request to be executed and they followed through.
Dang.
So that's the end of that story.
Okay.
Do you have thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously his shit mom and his shit dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can still believe that if this girl played with the Ouija board when she was little, though, the demon could have attached itself to her, even after all these years. Like again, because you're not supposed to play alone, so I can believe that as well. But I don't
Mm.
believe that that's what brought. I think it's just an unfortunate coincidence, really.
Yeah, I agree. I have another short one. This is true crime hashtag as well. I always use a hashtag after because I'm not hip or down with the kids. Um, so this one I kind of debated including, but I want to include it because it's kind of that same idea of like the Ouija board not being the cause but a problem. And in this case, I think that subconsciously, maybe people want the Ouija board to say what they want to hear, which I think we talked about earlier, but this is very specific
I
in what she
mean, if
wants to
that's the
hear.
case, then if I play the Ouija board, it would say Taylor Lautner has a crush on you.
Ooh, of all people, Andre?
2009 Taylor Lautner. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I won't judge. So, on the night of February 11th, 2001, so this is almost 20 years now, a 53-year-old grandmother, Carol Sue Elviger, was using a Ouija board with her daughter Tammy and Tammy's two daughters. They were playing in their home in Oklahoma, and Elviker, the grandma, apparently received a message from God through the Ouija board, informing her that her son in law, Brian, was evil and needed to be killed.
That happens
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really say why she hated him. He
What?
was actually.
What if the lady had dyslexia and like she thought it was God, but it was actually dog?
Oh my god! It was a dog!
It was a dog. What? What if it was a dog? What if it was like the family dog that had recently died, and this guy that he was telling the woman to kill had like kicked the dog or something?
Oh my goodness, it's possible.
Go ahead.
Alright, so I guess you can basically tell how this is going to end. He was actually the former mayor of their town, so that's interesting. She
Uh-huh.
took out a politician. She grabbed a knife and stabbed him to death in his sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, and uh, her daughter Tammy, the one who was married to him, she didn't do anything. She just let him bleed to death, which is very weird. I don't know what that means. Maybe she was traumatized. I don't know. After stabbing her son-in-law, Elviker tried to stab Tammy's 10-year-old daughter, but Tammy wrestled the knife from her mother and hid it in the house. And then they all piled into a car together. This is a really bad choice they make because they let the grandma drive.
Huh.
She tried to kill everyone in the car by running into a road sign. This is a 53-year-old grandma. She's doing work. She's doing real work for God right now.
Dang.
So she broke both her ankles in the car accident, and she got out of the car and tried to push one of the other granddaughters into oncoming traffic, believing that she had inherited the evil. And after failing to kill her, she ran, both ankles broken, stripped off all her clothes, and hid in the forest until she was arrested. This woman had no history of drugs or mental problems. They had no evidence of domestic problems in the home. They basically just said, this woman's insane, and she was committed to a psychiatric hospital.
I mean, honestly, I kind of believe she could have been possessed. Like, if she had no history of anything and all of a sudden she was trying to kill everyone, that sounds right to me.
But it was a message from God.
No, like,
Then again, maybe it was just
yeah, exactly. It could have just been a
Z-Man.
deceiving demon. But like that would make total sense too, because like it's in our research that like that's what they do. They deceive. So, damn, maybe this is actually not what you thought it was.
I think she's crazy. I think that people have a tendency to snap. Maybe she was harboring some like belief that he wasn't good enough for her daughter, but trying to kill the little girls, that's messed up. I can't think of a reason for that at all. It is interesting to me that she didn't have mental problems previously, or that she wasn't on drugs or alcohol, but I don't know. And I don't know.
Yeah, to me that's the kicker. The fact that she had no history. I don't know how often people kind of just like snap 0 to 60. I don't think I see that a lot. I think if anything, I see more of a gradual snappage.
Maybe we could do research into the snap, because I want to know too. I want to know what exactly happens in your mind that
Yeah.
causes the snap.
Everyone, please tune into the next episode of Psych Talk for the Snap. It's gonna be our topic for the week.
It's not about the Avengers.
Other, other than that, thank you, Shannon, for spooking my ass. Everyone, if you have any suggestions for episode 22, 23, actually. Oh my god, this is our 22nd episode. Good job. Please do let us know. We are on Twitter at Scary Talk. You can DM us. You can also find us on all podcast listening platforms. We are on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Overcast, etc., etc. I heard radio, Spotify. If you have not left us a review and you would like to do so, we would very much appreciate that. You can do it on any of those platforms. For sure, you can do it on Apple Podcasts, though. And it's always nice reading them there. Only 5-star ratings, though. If you give us anything less, we will come for you. We'll tell Mr. Z. That's it.
Um, I won't take it personally, guys. Just be honest.
I will send Z after you. Everyone, the Mothman is real. Don't eat any large meals before bedtime. And Shannon, anything else to add?
Bye.